Welcome back, my smart friends and my not so smart ones too. I'm Tristan, your coach, your mentor, whatever you want to call me. Let's talk about anxiety. Anxiety when making calls. I was a telemarketer for years, called for selling Windows, ink cartridges, door-to-door windows, Nelson TV ratings, all through the end of high school, last 2 years of high school, college, and just continued to do it for many years until I got into real estate. And the challenge has always been anxiety, like picking up the phone. Picking up the phone and actually making the call, because I've also seen the challenges that some people have when it comes to anxiety, when it comes to picking up the damn phone and making the calls. It's real. I've seen people overthink it and saying, you know what, I was going to call, I'm just not. I need to fix this. Oh, my pen's out of ink. Oh, I need to respond to this email. Oh, social media. I forgot to do this on social media. The thing is, anxiety, it stems from these things. It stems from feeling that you're going to get rejected. Somebody's going to yell at you. Somebody's going to say something mean to you. Somebody's going to say no to you. Somebody's going to maybe make you feel like you're inadequate. And those are all going to happen, unfortunately, because sometimes we tie those results, like actually connecting with somebody, making the sale, we tie those results to who we are, our identity. And that's a challenge, because when it comes to you, your identity, you've got to have that down. So the very first thing that I go through with people when it comes to sales anxiety, out of the 5. Yo, 5! Because there's 5, right? The very first one is preparation. And I think with preparation, it means fully understanding what it is that you're actually selling. In this case, with real estate, if I'm going to be calling people in a neighborhood and I'm going to be letting them know that we just sold a home or that we just listed one, I'm going to try to get as much information as possible about the neighborhood, about other homes in the area, as much information as I can about the current real estate market in that neighborhood, names, track names, understand when this whole area was built for homes, as much information as I can get. And I think the preparation is something that we're not used to, because what I also see when it comes down to preparing is the lack of it. I see people just jump into things like RedX, which is one of our favorite companies to dial in for expireds, for sale by owners, or geo prospecting, or for rent by owners, whatever you want to call it. The challenge is that we just jump into it. We literally do no research. We prepare for nothing. And then we wonder why we fail at it. So I want you to take this number 1 very seriously. Like, what does this look like for preparation? In fact, I'd have you write them down and say, hey, what are the things that I need to prepare for to be ready for this call, right? That's number 1. Now, the symptoms for anxiety, and there are symptoms, okay? These are the real symptoms. These are the ones where people actually start sweating, right? Their heart starts racing or palpitating pretty hard. And you have these physical symptoms as well as the ones that you can't really see. And the ones that you can't really see are the negative thought patterns. Somebody's going to yell at me, or somebody's going to say something mean to me. Or why am I calling? Nobody wants to sell right now. Nobody wants to buy right now. And those are the thoughts that if you're not careful, they continue to fall forward, and then inevitably you don't end up calling. So those are the symptoms. And here's where you have to dig deeper and think, what else can I do? Well, there are 4 more. Are you ready? Number 2. And I've got these written down for you, so if you want them, just message me. I'll send them over to you. Number 2, one that we lack for some reason. We think that we can just do the work and then learn on the job. Well, that's not the case. Practice. Practice makes you better. Practice makes better. It's all about practice. It's all about practicing hard too. It's not about just practicing and saying, oh, you know what, let me just read this right here. I'm going to read, oh yeah, hello, Mr. Seller. Oh, that's good. We sold your home in 123 Pineapple Street. And no, see, that's the challenge. This is how we practice. So when we show up to actually play, to actually make the calls that matter, we show up just like we practiced. And that's pretty crappy. So what I want you to do is think about how you can practice to elevate yourself. And the fastest way of doing that for me is to practice with somebody else. Practice with somebody else who won't put up with your garbage, who will make you accountable and say, hey, you know what? That didn't sound good, right? That didn't sound good at all. In fact, this is what it should sound like. And that becomes now another stepping stone for you to say, got it. Now I can base what I should sound like on somebody else's words. Maybe you're learning along the way and saying, yeah, it didn't sound right. Maybe I should reword it. But I want you to train. I want you to train hard too. None of this fake on your own type of things. It's great to record yourself. But if you're going to play it back and you want to challenge yourself, I'd play it back to some people that could judge me and be like, what are they going to say? How do I sound? Do I sound spammy? Do I sound like I only want to sell instead of create a relationship? Right? So that's number 2. I need you to actually practice. Practice like this is the real thing. You've got to train for this like you actually want it. Number 3 is mindset. And when I'm talking about mindset, that feeling like you're confident enough, the confidence that comes from preparation, the confidence that comes from practice, that confidence, the confidence that you actually know what you're talking about and how you're going to say things with what tonality, and also the mindset that you know that everyone you're talking to, they're not going to buy. They're not going to buy. They're not going to sell. Your job from the very beginning is to know that you're creating long-term relationships here. And I want to really drill that in because for some reason, over the years, we've been trained to think that every single person that we talk to, we can convert. And guess what? We can't. We just can't. It's never going to happen. But once you tweak it, and you're like, I understand why I'm reaching out to somebody. It's to build a relationship because I know that I, at some point, can help them with this. And if you treat it that way from the very beginning, then you start looking at, well, let me get your information and let me put you on a newsletter. Let me see what other value I can offer you so that when you're ready, finally, to transact, or if you have questions, because I've been so diligent in my nurturing because I had the right mindset, at that point you'll feel comfortable to connect with me. How many times has this happened to us? I mean, one time it was an online lead and we must have sent him over 40 different messages, combination of voicemail, email over a span of 3 years. Voicemail, email, that's not even including the automated emails we would send for properties. But what had happened is they never responded back. And out of the blue, I think it was pre-COVID 2018, out of the blue, this person calls and leaves a message because I didn't pick up the phone. Pick up your phone. Pick up your phone. I didn't pick up the phone. And they left me a message and said, hey, Tristan, you've been leaving me messages for a long time. In fact, I've been getting all of your property searches and we think we found one. In fact, we're ready. I'm sorry I had never gotten back to you, but I just wasn't ready. This isn't the only time it's happened, but every time it happens, it blows my mind. It's like, I can't believe people are actually listening to my voicemails, reading my texts and emails, and not responding back. And you've got to be okay with that because this is the game you're playing. Value-driven relationships. That's mindset. Number 4, breathing techniques. Yeah, let me tell you how important this one is. I've had the privilege to interview a lot of different high achievers. And those that have been under stress, whether it's a Marine, whether it's a doctor under a stressful situation, whether it's a business person that had to deal with a lawsuit or something that was detrimental to them, or somebody just losing somebody that they really, really loved. It's all about looking at your current situation and being able to handle what's going on without panicking and without falling apart. And a lot of that has to do with breathing. I want you to right now, just think about whether or not you're breathing. Take a deep breath. Breathe in, filtering it in, and breathing out. It does something to your body. It relaxes you. It makes you present. And so this breathing technique, this ability to breathe. When somebody says, no, we're not ready, screw you, say, okay. You know what? I prepared for this one. In fact, I just breathed in and out a few minutes ago, a few seconds ago, right before the call. The point is you're breathing. And the more you breathe, the better you can handle it. It sounds absurd at some points, but look, through martial arts, through years of martial arts, and through some years of having some amazing Marine friends, and in some cases training with them, you understand how important breathing is to regulate and calm you down. Because if you at any point have your body in a fashion that is alerted and that is looking for danger, that's how you're going to respond mentally, unless you breathe. And at that point, you've got to breathe in and breathe out and relax and say, God, I got this. I got this. It releases the anxiety, all that physical pressure. In fact, it makes you think a little bit better too. So that's number 4, breathe. Tip number 5, here's the final one. We don't talk about this at all. It's the transition. The transition? What? What do you mean, Tristan? Well, the transition from one call to the next. And a lot of us, because we're like on a go pattern, it's like hang up, go. In fact, some of us are auto dialing. If you're an auto dialer, you still have some transition. And I want you there. I want you to breathe at that point. I want you to breathe, go through your mind and say, got it, this next person that I talk to, I want to build a relationship, right? So mindset, number 1, quick affirmations if possible. I've got this. I'm calling to build relationships. I want to nurture people. I want to provide value. All right, go. Remind yourself of why you're calling. Remind yourself of who you're calling. That transition is so important because sometimes we get caught up, like everything else around us, we get so bombarded by information. We get so caught up with the next call, with the next call, with the next call, that we forget the reason we're making the call. And for me and for my team, the reason we make calls is to build these relationships. Because if you go in and offer value and build relationships, we know one thing happens. When you do things at this level and you do things right and give value long term, that's where you win because they come back to you. So number 5 is easier said than done, but it's transition. I need you to be aware of the transition. What is my transition? Am I breathing? Is my mindset right? Am I ready to build relationships with this next person? That's what it's about. Transition matters. And when you're done calls, I want you to transition out too. Because I know when I was calling for hours and hours and hours at a time, I'd still be in that mode, right? Go. And I needed to take a deep breath and say, okay, let's transition out to what's next, right? Sometimes you bring some of that anger, some of that sadness, some of that rejection feeling that you got if you didn't have a good session in calling, and you transition that into whoever you're talking to next. And so transitions are important between calls and after. Once you're done, breathe it out and get ready for what's next. This doesn't end. I literally still go through calls some mornings and I'm like, I don't know if I can call this morning, or I don't know if I can call this afternoon. And it always depends on how I'm feeling. So a lot of this has to do with confidence, right? There are other little things that you can do, whether it's music, turning up the music, getting your state right, going down and doing push-ups. In fact, I do that, right? Push-ups, you can do jumping jacks, you can punch the air, right? You could just get hyped up to get mentally and physically connected into what you're going to do next. It helps. And music is the one that helps you get into state the fastest. So as a bonus, remember there's music and there's physical activity that can get you right into state to get going. None of that will matter if you don't prepare, right? You've got to prepare. You've got to practice. Your mindset has to be right. Like, what does this look like? You've got to breathe through this whole thing. And you've got to learn to transition better. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions or if you want to add anything to this, I'm sure I've got a lot more tips, But those are the ones I wanted to share with you. Those were the important ones for me. And I know that they're very useful over calling. I don't even know how many years I've called. That's 24, 30 years of dialing.
In my day, we had radio, and you couldn't see anything. We didn't have this technology.
And so it's not always easy. You're going to have some days that you don't want to dial. So good luck. Any questions, let me know. Oh yeah, and look, subscribe to this thing. I do this for free. I do this for you. If you need coaching, let me know. Coach teams. I coach individual agents and brokerages. So if you're looking to grow, let me know. I'm here to help you out.